Hey guys, uh, welcome back for constructions 11 through 13. If I sound a little funny, I'm battling a head cold, so hopefully I don't have to blow my nose during this thing. It'd be a little awkward, but fair warning, it might happen. So the first thing we're looking at is constructing a perpendicular line through a point that is not on the line. In this case, you'll be given a line. We might call that line L, and you'll be given a point somewhere off to one side. It might be to the left, might be to the right, might be above or below, but somewhere you're going to get a point. And so the first step we want to do when we're doing this is we want to create a segment somewhere on here that we can perform the perpendicular bisector of. All right, because that's the way we did it when we had the point on the line. And before that, that's how we bisected a segment. So if we can take it from being a line that continues indefinitely in both directions to being a segment, then we're going to have a lot easier time doing it. But the endpoints of that segment have to be this. It have to be what we say is equidistant or equidistance from this point out here, which we call A. Well, the only way to do that is to make sure that they are on the same arc with center A. So I'm going to come in, and the first step we have actually says it needs to intersect at two distinct places. And the reason I say that is if you were to take, say, this one right here, notice how it's intersecting, like it's barely touching the line, right? That's going to give us an issue, and we want to avoid having where we have to kind of not nitpick, but we have to really strain to find the two different intersections. Remember, a segment has to have two endpoints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a point that's going to give me two clearly different endpoints. And to do that, I'm going to come out here to the left arrow, or I might go to the right arrow, but whichever arrow appears to be closer to A, I'm going to come to that arrow, and I'm just going to pick a point that's somewhere out there. And I'm going to take it around until it intersects the line twice. What that does is it guarantees that I have a good distance between B and C, and that makes it easier to see my 2 points clearly. It also makes it where when I'm using my compass, I'm not having to use this inner ring. We want to avoid using that inner ring because it's just harder to use. Sometimes it's necessary, but we want to avoid it. Well, once I do this, now I have a segment. I have segment BC. I'm just going to bisect that segment with a perpendicular bisector. So I'm going to place my compass on B. And over here, I pick a point that's close to C, but I need to make sure I'm using that same point. Okay? I have to make sure I'm using that same point when I reverse this. Otherwise, I'm going to have a major issue, and it's going to throw me off. So I pick a point. Notice how it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly on C. I could have come over here, and I could have chosen the other one. Doesn't matter. All right, we're still going to get the right answer. And I make a nice fine arc. Mind you, the lighter and thinner that arc is, the better it's going to be. If you make it darker and thicker, you give yourself some more what we would say is ambiguity. You make it more ambiguous as to where that point would be. Well, I have that. What I need to do is reverse. And notice how last time I marked that part on my compass. I'm going to come over to C. I'm not going to come to this point where the arc hit. I'm going to come to C. Hopefully you see how there are two different points here. So I'm coming to C, lining it up with C, and I'm going to use that same thing. And it should hit pretty much like leave the same thing, just a mirror image or reflection of what we just looked at by C. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my arc, nice fine line, and it gives me 2 points. We can call those points D and E respectively. Okay? It does not matter which one to make D and E. Really doesn't. Just one of them D, one of them E. And what we should find is that when I go and I set up my straight edge, remember, place your pencil or pen or whatever on that intersection, slide your straight edge up next to it, and then rotate around so that you can find the other one. Notice how that point A is right on my path? That's what I'm wanting. I'm wanting this line to go through A. And so we have the line, and that line goes through A. It also goes through these other 2 points. And one thing we could say here, because it's the perpendicular bisector, it is perpendicular to this segment. And so we could say that line L is perpendicular to line ED. Alright, and so that's what we have. That is the construction for a perpendicular line through a point that is not on the line. Next up, copying an angle. So now we're going to switch into angles. In order to copy an angle, you're going to be given an angle. So I have there. So I'm given an angle. It might be acute, it might be right, it might be obtuse, but you're going to be given an angle A. And you're going to be given a random ray, A prime. That's what you'll be given to start with. So we want to copy this angle over here. Basically, we're trying to move it over to here. First step is we want to place the center of the compass on A, and we want to pick out an arc. Now, I don't want to get crazy like I just used this one. I don't want to get crazy with it, but I want to make sure I'm using a good distance. So I just pick somewhere out here, and then I want to make sure I mark that. That should be marked on my compass. Alright, you see how I've marked it on my compass. It would be a good idea to eliminate this marking from the last construction. That way I'm not confusing myself. Well, since I have that mark made, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to use that same position, move my center to A prime. Alright, you see A prime down there underneath. And that same spot that I used before, I'm going to draw an arc, and this is going to come way out here. I'm going to draw it further than what I need to on purpose, because I know that I need to find this new point here. That new point is going to be somewhere in this area, but I don't know where. And in all reality, it might be that my eyes are fooling me, and I might think it's over here, but really it's a little bit further to the left. Well, over here, see where we have these two intersections? We have B prime, and over here we have C prime. Well, since this B prime is on the bottom, over here I can make this point B prime. Notice how A prime B prime is the same length as AB. That should be a regular B, not a B prime. So then I need to know where to put this C. Well, to do that, I'm going to need to find the distance between B and C. To do that, I can use my compass. So I place my center at B. Why B? Why do I choose B? Well, the reason I choose B is because I have a B prime. I'm using the point where I know the image or the copy or duplicate already exists. I place it right here, and then what I do is I come through and I find the hole that matches the closest. You notice how we're somewhat in between, but this inner line here matches a lot more closely, or much more closely. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to go ahead and kind of mark that on my compass. See how I have it marked? I'm going to move my center over to B, and I'm going to make an arc, and I just want that arc to intersect the other one. Notice how I'm showing my arcs. You should be showing your arcs when we do these. Alright, that helps me to know that you're following the correct steps when I go to either help you out, give you some guidance, or something of the sort. And the reason we do this construction is, given the tilt of this line, the angle of this line, I honestly was expecting it to be up here, but in reality, that angle is actually over here to the left. So my eye was fooling me. Well, this right here, as you might expect, is C prime. Okay, that point is C prime. I'm going to go ahead and just take and right there, and there's my copy of the angle. If you were to take this, cut it out, and place it on top of here, they would be complete duplicates. Ugh, I really hope that didn't sound too bad. Alright, so those are the first two. Now we get to our third one. Our third one is construct the bisector of an angle. Well, in this case, as you might expect, you're going to have to be given an angle. It could be obtuse, right, or acute. I'm going to go ahead and do an obtuse angle, just because I want to show something a little bit unique, but same steps for each one. First thing I want to do is right here I have A. I'm going to place my center on A. And I'm going to do an arc. Now, the more acute your angle is, the further out you want to be. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. The more obtuse, the closer in you want to be. Because when you're obtuse, it's going to make it bigger. The construction is going to be bigger because your degree measure is bigger. When you're acute, your degree measure is smaller, so it makes construction smaller. It's good to have a happy medium, kind of a go-to every time. Like for me, this point right here is usually my go-to point. I don't know why, it just is. So we have that. That gives me B and C. And what I need to do is find the point out here, somewhere out here, that is the same distance from B as it is from C. So it needs to be equidistant to both B and C. Well, to do that, I need to create two arcs that are intersecting with the same radius. Alright, well, place my center on B. And I'm going to find a point over here that's close to C. It does not have to be exact. Alright, really I don't have to. Really I just need to make sure I'm on the other side of the vertex of the angle here with A. So just as long as I'm using the same thing twice. But the reason I say close to C is it's easier for people to remember that, and that's why I do that. So I just moved it. There we go. So I do that, and I draw an arc that comes out all the way through the interior of the angle. It's important to do that because I don't actually know where that other point's going to exist. I just know it's going to be somewhere out here. Well, I reverse. I place my center at C. If you look real close, you can see there are two different points here. I'm going to go to C, place my center on there, and I'm going to use the same exact point I used the last time. And all I need to do now is just go to where I intersect. So you see how I have that intersection out here. That's going to be my point D. And I'll change colors for this one. But line up with both of them. And there you go. There is your bisector of the angle. Alright, so I hope these videos help you out. And remember, if you have any questions, come ask.